Okay, in this video, I want to kind of address dimensioning in model space versus paper space. Uh, a lot of it is going to depend on where you go to work once you leave college here, and what their practice is there in the office. Some businesses, just due to the nature of their business, they do all dimensioning in model space. Some do dimensioning in paper space. It really just depends on where you go to work and what type of drawings that you're going to be doing. And we're for the most part, we're going to do all our dimensioning in paper space because it's easier to control the size of your text and the spacings by doing it in paper space. Now we will address other methods of how to deal with it in model space later on in the course and in some of the other classes. But I just want to give you kind of an overview. So here I've just drawn a rectangle in model space, and I've dimensioned it in model space. Okay. Now, just as a guide, your first dimension line should be 3/8 of an inch out from the object. A way to check that is to just go line command and then just kind of pull out, and that way you can measure. Okay, so 0.3787, that's pretty close to 3/8 of an inch. All right, we're looking at 0.375, 0.38. Okay, and as you're dimensioning these things, one way to deal with it, well, before I start that, when you go to dimensioning in object snaps, depending upon what you're dealing with, you want to turn some of these off. Like I would turn off midpoint and quadrant. Yeah, keep center and endpoint. Those are the main ones you're going to use. Maybe intersection. And the reason for that is our dimensions are going to be tied to the object, meaning if we change the size of the object, then the dimension will move with it. If it's snapped to a node, like when a dimension is placed, this handle right here is actually a node, and if you leave that turned on, you'll see some of your dimensions are tied to nodes. Okay, just a real quick thing on this, like say for instance, I'm dimensioning something from inside to outside, like this 2-dimension here. A way to do that is start with the one on the inside first, then go to the outside, and then you'll notice if I pull out, if I type in 0.38, most of the time that's going to space it 3/8 of an inch off of that end snap. Okay, that's why I wanted to turn off all those other things. Okay, so that's one little quick trick that you quick trick that you can use to space your dimensions out. All right, so here I've dimensioned this in model space. If I go to an A size sheet, now this sheet is set at a 1:1. Okay, and everything is okay as long as I'm at a 1:1 scale. If I want to check that length, okay, that one's at 0.32, which is what it was over in model space. Remember, we measured this one up here, so we'll check that one, 0.378. Okay, so everything looks good there, but we're at a 1:1 scale. Now, if we have to do something at half size, okay, so here I've got an A size sheet set at half size, or a 1:2 scale, okay. Now, if I come in and measure that, you see it's at 3/16 of an inch. And my text now is 1/16 inch tall when it should be 1/8 of an inch tall. So I've changed the scale on this, and now all my text, my arrowheads, my lines, everything is too small. Same way if we do, like say this one is at a 2:1 scale. Okay. So now that line is 3/4 of an inch out. So irregardless of whatever the scale of your viewport is, your dimensions and everything should be 3/8 of an inch out, 1/8 inch text, 1/8 inch arrowheads. All right, so now let's go back to here, and I've got a layer. I'm going to turn this other layer on. So here I've I've dimensioned this a couple of times here. These are in Paperspace. Okay. Now if I go to my half size drawing and I measure these, all right, so I'm at 3/8 of an inch out, 3/8 of an inch there. My text is 1/8 of an inch tall, 0.125, 1/8 of an inch tall. And so this is how it should look. Okay. Same way on a 2:1 scale. If I check that one, that's 3/8 of an inch out. My text is 1/8 of an inch tall. Now, one of the problems with dimensioning in Paperspace is that you must scale and lock your viewport before you start. Because if I have to move my object, you see the dimensions are not tied to the object. So it's very important that you center your object up and scale it and lock your viewport before you start dimensioning. Okay, just kind of a quick overview, just to restate what we're dealing with here in this class, and unless you're directed otherwise, all dimensioning and all text will be done in Paperspace. If you do it in model space, you'll get a correction to start with, and then you'll be losing points on your work, because until I tell you otherwise, we're going to dimension everything in Paperspace.